Dear brothers and sisters, indeed I am very happy again meeting with one group of people. So you are the people who creates new ideas, new thoughts, and leading people. So I always see, since 1973, my first visit to Europe. Then, of course, I received, since my childhood, Life magazine, and then also the Newsweek, Time magazine, and some Indian newspaper, national newspaper. So then, gradually, I felt a lot of problems which we are facing is ultimately due to lack of sense of responsibility for better humanity, better world. That's lacking. So therefore, you see, I really feel wonderful human brain used for destruction. Destruction. So that's really very, very unfortunate. One way, education, extremely important. But the education which existing education system, very much oriented about material value. So now, time come, we have to think seriously about the education system. It is our own interest, interest of the whole humanity. Education should be holistic, not only material value, but also, you see, inner value. That's very important. So actually, last several years, you see, we involve now how to introduce in the secular education field about secular ethics. So now, the end of this month, we will going to have one sort of discussion with concerned people, some from America also, some Indian, so like that. So you are the people supposed, you see, to change world. Then the basic thing is we are social animal. So individuals' happy life entirely depend on the rest of the community, finally rest of the humanity. So therefore, even for our own individual interest, we have to take seriously the well-being of humanity, well-being of the world. So then, according scientists, say, I have over 30 years serious discussion with scientists. Now some scientists used to say, basic human nature is more compassionate. So this is really a hopeful sign. So now, on the basis of basic human nature, more compassionate, now this intelligence must utilize to strengthening that basic human nature. That's very possible. Not on the basis of faith or next life, heaven or hell. No. This very life, or individual human beings' health also, this inner peace is very essential. Then happy family, happy community. Finally, happy humanity. This inner value is very important. So that's wherever I go, I always talk about our human value. Basically, sense of oneness of humanity. That's the basis. Then, with that, sense of concern of others' well-being automatically come. That's my number one commitment. Number two commitment, I am Buddhist, so religious harmony is very essential. Religious harmony possible because this country, India, over 1,000 years, is a religious harmony there. So, most populated democratic country, in spite of a lot of problems or difficulties, but the religious harmony over 1,000 years, you carry it. So, it is possible to develop religious harmony. I notice a Muslim of India, I think they, since you see, from their childhood, they already sort of know there are different traditions. And some extent in Malaysian Muslim also you have that kind of sort of feeling. Because there are large number of Chinese, most of these Chinese businessmen and women are Buddhist. And also large number of Indian. So Hindus there. So therefore, the Muslim in Malaysia, they are sort of, they much easier to understand, or different religious tradition have same message like that. Then Indonesia also some extent. Indonesia case, of course, in the past, the Buddhism much flourished in some part of Indonesia, like that. Then the Arabs, little bit isolated, much less contact with outside world and different tradition. So it's in there, from childhood, just think one religion, one truth. So religious harmony is very possible when we create more interaction, more study, different traditions. Then mutual respect come. Then mutual understanding, mutual learning. So through that way, we can develop religious harmony. That's my second commitment. Third commitment, I'm Tibetan. I'm much concerned. Now, as far as Tibetan political temporal responsibility is concerned, since 2011, I totally retired. So, now we already have elected political leadership. So, he carries full responsibility. So, now my responsibility, my commitment is preservation of Tibetan ecology and Tibetan culture, including Tibetan language. With that, when I visit those Himalayan sort of city regions, which are traditionally very close with Tibet, so from Ladakh up to Men, You see, you also, you see, follow Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and every monastery or temple, when they chanting in Tibetan, whatever you call Buddhist language, or doesn't matter, the language of dangerous language. That's not only in Tibet area, but also in Mongolia. So that language is now I find best language to explain about Buddhist philosophy and Buddhist logic. Sanskrit language in that language. So among the living language, only Tibetan language have the best language to explain these things. So preservation of Tibetan culture, including Tibetan language, is not only 6 million Tibetan people's interest, but also, I think, a larger humanity in this part of the world. So therefore, my third commitment is preservation of Tibetan culture, and with that, also you see, I have the responsibility to remind people in this region, please you pay more attention about the very, very sophisticated Nalanda tradition. And that is Sanskrit tradition. And then, of course, overall, now 58 years I live in this country. So since I have sort of because of the full conviction, the ancient Indian knowledge about mind and how to tackle mental restlessness. Because you see, India, Buddhists, non-Buddhists, all you see, have the tradition of practice of shamatha and vipassana. So those religions who have the practice of shamatha and vipassana, automatically knowledge about mind automatically come. And in order to practice vipassana, reason, very important. So the ancient India, I think, very, very rich about logic and about the science of mind. So these are not only ancient Indian knowledge, but also relevant to today's world. So you Indian should pay more attention about this your ancient knowledge. So wherever I go, I always talking that. So these are my commitment. So now some questions.
I want to take this golden opportunity to express some of my queries, which I am bearing since last few months, and that is about the language of the Tibetan. The language of the Tibetan.
Yes.
Tibetan language.
Huh?
Tibetan language.
Yes.
You have spoken about Tibetan language also.
That's right.
It is one of the most wonderful language in the world. Poetic, very beautiful, and it can express everything else. But what I found, I am a new learner of the Tibetan language. So what I found is there is something lacking in this language. That is the absence of the punctuation marks. Absence of the punctuation marks.
Hmm.
For example, there is no question mark. There is no comma, semicolon, bracket, etc. So, will it be possible to introduce all these punctuation marks in the modern Tibetan language?
Because it's so chore. The gang inji gnal tisuru because Mike Shesho in the Taja Soro and the Yoro, it's so
Yes, we can actually copy from English. For example, like in English you have the quotation marks and so forth. We can copy them in Tibetan as well.
Some Tibetan writers, they wanted to introduce it, but questions were asked why it has been introduced, because these are not, cannot be introduced in Tibetan. That's what I was told. If something can be done from His Holiness side.
Different people have different inclinations, interests, or mental dispositions.
But I think these are minority. I think they back because of the overall. I don't think. But in a certain case, is a certain sort of because of the style, which is the English or the modern language is doing. But the basic sort of, I say the richness there, oh, very very
So basically, Tibetan is a very rich language.
I think Sanskrit language is, among the ancient language, I think one of the most sophisticated language. So Tibetan language is most closest language with Sanskrit. Okay. Next question.
My sincere gratitude to His Holiness. Sir, I'm a teacher, and in the very beginning of your speech, you have mentioned about the educational system, the role of education in changing the world and changing the human mentality. But if we see from the beginning of the human civilization, all the things have already been changed. Great amount of changes are being occurred in all the systems. But when we see the education system, it is still a kind of teacher and students interaction. It is confined within the teacher and student interaction in India particularly. It is not revolutionized as per the requirements of the time. Still in India, in the government schools and colleges, we follow this particular system. And in this system, we are not in a position to find out the real talents of students, because there are lots of hidden talents in students. So what is your advice to revolutionize the education system in the recent time to find out the more talents, the hidden talents of students that a teacher can able to find out, sir?
Oh, I'm not an expert, so I don't know. I think mainly, according to my own experience, when I'm getting lesson from my teacher, when teacher shows me smile and genuine affection, then I have more willingness to learn. And occasionally, teacher's face, a little bit of the angry face, I don't like then. And then lesson truly become burden. So I think the genuine human relations, teachers and student, you see, you should not act like a machine or tape recorder. You should act human being. While you're explaining about the subject, you also show sense of responsibility, the whole life of the student. The trust between teacher and student, I think, very important. That I feel. Then, for study, we usually call analytical meditation. Analyze, critically analyze. That's very important. Buddhist literature say, I think Indians also, I think Hindus also, I think same. There's one level of knowledge through hearing or through reading. So students' knowledge should not remain on that level. That's simply copy, that's all. Then on that basis, some knowledge through hearing, then analyze by yourself, by students themselves. In order to analyze, you need more books and also I think useful to same subject but different sort of interpretation. That kind of sort of books, very important in order to use, analyze. That brings conviction. The conviction from first level is more or less faith. The conviction from second level, now that's really conviction. The first level of understanding, if someone say, oh, that's wrong, then you may doubt. The second level of understanding develop, then someone say, that's wrong, then you have plenty of reason. No, I have reason such. So that is conviction. Then the certain thing which you fully convinced, now that make familiarize. Then gradually some experience come. Then the knowledge on that level of experience is really profound. So I think student, firstly, good relation with teacher and student. And then secondly, should have a sort of more different material and let them analyze, not just to copy what teacher stated, what the book stated, but analyze by themselves. Besides that, I don't know. I have to learn from you. Next question.
My prayers to His Holiness. His Holiness, how can we practice compassion in this materialistic and fast-changing world? And how can we use compassion as a foundation for world peace?
I think on level of humanity, the secular way to educate, that is entirely based on our common experience. That is, we all come from our mother. So those people who received maximum affection at a young age, I think some traces of that experience remain whole life. Some children who neglected by parents or some relatives, then superficially maybe a successful life, but in deep inside some fear, the sense of insecurity. So such person, difficult to trust other. So whole life, then difficult. So that is our common experience. Then common sense. I want to spend more time here and judge those politicians or leaders, educationists, and ordinary businessmen, ordinary police or civilian work, right? And including beggar, poor peasant. I'm quite sure those people who have warm-heartedness, then they find more trusted friends. Economically maybe poor, but so long warm-heartedness there, naturally you find more trusted friends. And then, or politicians or businessmen or some high leaders, lack of warmth here. Of course, it's officials, you see or police, you see subordinates, of course, they will salute you, sir, sir, sir. But in deep inside, nothing, no feeling. So therefore, that is common sense, common experience, common sense. Look, those people who have some sort of inner peace, and more compassionate, automatically, you see, becoming much more happier. Now scientists, now they begin to find inner peace is something very important. Just yesterday, this morning I mentioned some scientists say constant anger, constant hatred, actually eating our immune system. So therefore, these are sort of common sense. And then, as I mentioned earlier, scientific findings. On the basis of these things, then we can educate people. More warm-heartedness or compassionate is a very important factor for individuals' happy life. Not talking about, heaven or next life, like that. I always talk these things. Okay. Next.
In Buddhism, since when we are, very young, we are always taught to, not harm others, not harm animals, not harm birds, even insects.
True.
But most of Buddhists, I think we consume non-vegetarian food. So in Buddhism, does it say that we should not consume non-vegetarian food? Or is there any explanation for this?
Now, according to Vinaya, that's the monks' monastic rule. One time, many years ago, I discussed with one monk from Sri Lanka. I discussed with him about the vegetarian and non-vegetarian. And he told me, Buddhist monk, neither vegetarian nor non-vegetarian. Reason, Buddhist monk, no private kitchen. Nowadays, something different. Originally, just carrying baking bowl, and the family, which vegetarian, when they give you vegetarian food, you should accept. Or non-vegetarian sort of family give you non-vegetarian food, you should accept. You have no right to say, I want this, I want that. There was a story, Buddha himself, at the end of his life, he takes some pork, so that creates some sort of problem, his health, like that. Then, in Bodhisattva Yana's some teaching, like Langarshivado, clearly mentioned, you see, you should not eat any sort of meat. Very clearly mentioned. So many Chinese Buddhists, they strictly follow that. And some Japanese also. But then Burma, Thailand, Sri Lanka, these, as I mentioned earlier, whatever they get, they accept. So some Buddhists, and then meantime, the great master of Nalanda institution, Baba Vega, in his writing, Umanyingbu, he mentioned meat available in hotel or in mark, then or market, or markets, then okay, and mainly meat or dead animal. You see, no problem. But problem is, any Buddhist, you have no right to demand, I want this meat or that kind of thing. No, you have no right. And any meat, you even doubt, purposely killed for you, you should not eat. That's clearly mentioned. So some Buddhist practitioner, tradition, quite strict, some not very strict, like that. Then drinking chang, Buddha clearly mentioned, any person who believe I'm their teacher should not take any kasada, drink, like that. So that's the Buddha, I think, clearly mentioned. But some member monk, they enjoy. At Ladakh also, Laos Piti. One time, one monk, one old monk, you see, who spent some years in Teshilmu in Tibet. So he working one Piti monastery, one monastery in Piti. So one day in morning, sun, quite warm, so I stayed there, I sit there, and that monk, you see, carrying some sort of kasuda, kishicha, cleaning, something like that. Then I just talk. And then he told me he spent some years in Teshilmu monastery. Then one way, I just automatically come in one question. I asked him, do you find Piti Chang is sweeter or Shigazi Chang is sweeter? No hesitation, say, Shigazi is much better. So that means he also have the experience, drink Chang. Now these things, I think, much improved. Ladakh and Laos, Piti, and Mern, I think this. One occasion, I actually was teasing in Tawang Monastery. Say, one faithful person, say, come to pilgrimage to Tawang Monastery from distance. Now this is just imagine, right? The monk from distance coming, Tawang Monastery, he saw, pray. Then closer, he smelled Chang. Then he felt, now. Like that, of course. Now, next question.
I have a question. I'm quite confused about religion. As we see around today, as we look around, we see a lot of religious intolerance and racism all at increase. So my doubt is, like, how do we ensure that each religion is more compassionate towards the other one? Is there a way to build more tolerance among every religion, or is it possible that we move towards something like de-religialization, and we accept humanity and compassion towards every human being and animals and nature as a new form of religion?
Yes, I think recently His Holiness Pope, I think, expressed. I saw one items news. I saw it is better remain non-believer than stupid Christian. It's true. I think we Buddhists also. I think it is better to be a nice human being, non-believer, rather than stupid Buddhist. So, I usually say, therefore, and another sort of factor is, out of 7 billion human beings, 1 billion non-believer. then also, you see, there are now problems due to religious faith, more division, even killing. Sunni, Shia, among both followers of Quran, Muhammad, and 5 times prayer. But then, just small differences, Shia and Sunni killing each other in Syria, in Iraq. Then also Northern Ireland, Protestant, Catholic, both follow of Jesus Christ. Both accept Trinity, like that. But then, killing each other. In some cases, unfortunately, in Tibet also, it's the same sort of Buddhist, follower of Buddha Dharma, and follower of Nalanda tradition. But due to politics, due to certain things, you see, some killing also take place in the past history. So when I sort of also make a comment in this, because of the conflict in the name of religion, particularly the Muslim and the Muslim Christian, sometimes I also felt, among the Tibetan Buddhists also, sometimes that problem used to happen. Therefore, we need special effort to develop religious harmony and a non-sectarian principle. Very important. So then, I usually see, sometimes I sort of express, my religion is kindness, loving kindness, without any complicated philosophy or this tradition. However, all major world tradition, if you follow sincerely, seriously, all have same potential to strengthening our compassion, our love. Like Christian or those theistic religion, is the single-pointed faith towards God as a creator, absolute, permanent. That brings conviction, I must follow the God's sort of path. So each religion, have a different philosophy. They have their own sort of beauty, like that. So we must look at the purpose of this different philosophy, same purpose, to bring compassion and forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline, these things. So now here, as I mentioned my commitment in this country, religious harmony there. Now this must sort of promote. And nowadays, it's a so-called Muslim terrorist. And one occasion, Buddhist terrorist. And a Muslim terrorist, now many people say, or some kind of, in order to reduce these Muslim terrorists using force. This counterproductive. We must reach out. These Muslim terrorists, also you see, so-called Muslim terrorists, actually, as soon as terrorist activities indulge, no longer Muslim, no longer Buddhist. So, because you see, Buddhism, Islam, or by Fred, Muslim, one Muslim mullah, he told me, or at one public function, he told that any Muslim practitioner must extend love towards the entire creature of Allah. So, all human beings, all sentient beings, like that. Wonderful. Then one of my friend, the former Chief Minister of Jammu Kashmir, Farooq Abdullah, now he once told me the very meaning of jihad is combat your own inner or destructive emotion. That is the meaning of jihad. Jihad, not killing or harming others. So later in New York, I could consult one Muslim scholar, one professor. I asked, he confirmed that. Like that. So therefore, I think wrong interpretation or wrong sort of impression, Muslim little bit sort of negative or as a militant, that's totally wrong. Some mischievous people in any field, as I mentioned earlier, a few years ago, some Burmese Buddhist monk, you see, harming some Muslim. So at that time, Time magazine, you see, Kasada, on the cover, one picture of Buddhist monk and describe Buddhist terrorist. So if Buddhism is more militant, and I also then Buddhist, so terrorist. I think some Chinese official, I think, describe me as a terrorist. Like that. So therefore, I think more sort of negative attitude and use force in their emotion hardened. Only way is reach out. Take time, but gradually. I often telling my Indian Muslim friend, the Indian Muslim should take some initiative and invite Muslims in different because of the countries. One occasion in America, I had some sort of meeting, some Muslim from different, I think at least 3-4 different Muslim countries, you see, because the Muslim brothers come. And I told, now this kind of spirit, I think we must create because of the Muslim world, like that. So it is how to say, very clear, those Muslims, as I mentioned earlier, remain isolated. Then some mischievous leader manipulated. So once you see people have sort of wider contact and better understanding different tradition, then difficult to manipulate easily. Whether accept religion or not, up to individual. In order to become happy person, sensible person, not necessary to follow religion. Just good human being. If you follow any religion, then you should be sincere and serious. Then no problem. Okay. And this also is the society, whole society, as I mentioned earlier, the existing education system, very much oriented about material value. So through that kind of education, eventually whole society, some kind of materialistic way of life, materialistic culture. So then the individual who live in that kind of society, very difficult, unless you have certain inner strength, otherwise it's difficult. So we have to think fundamental level, kindergarten level, then through systematic sort of also the education about inner value. Then the later part of this 21st century can be more peaceful. Which my lifetime, I think I will not see. Like that. But it is important make noise here and there, and let younger people also open their mind. Okay, next question. 추수 고한통 걸사. 가. 니들 제가 전나 담에 된다. Yes.
Everybody know that that is universal truth and it is inevitable to all living beings. And we human beings in our life have seen many have very peaceful death, but some do not have. Some have very painful death. So what should we prepare ourselves to have a very peaceful death? My second question is, we generally fear about our death. So how to overcome our fear about our own death?
Firstly, we should be realistic. So, death is part of our life. Where there is birth, automatically come death. And then, the 8th century's great Buddhist master of Nalanda, he expressed, when we facing some tragic situation, and we should analyze that tragedy or tragic situation. If there is a way to overcome, then no use to worry, make effort. If the situation is such, no way to overcome, then no use to worry. That's very realistic, very practical. So therefore, like death, you see, when I think we must make any effort, every effort to live long. I also try. And then, when actual death about to come, no use too much worry. If you have some sort of worry, some fear about death, now whether believer, non-believer, there's differences. Non-believer, death come just like kasoda, flame kasoda, going out, right? No, like that. Even so, according to some Buddhist school of thought, also at Mahaparinirvana is the continuation of consciousness and rest of that's the but many Buddhist school of thought, the subtle level of consciousness never end. No beginning, no end. Finally finally become Buddha's mind. So mainly only Hindus who accept, you see, the rebirth theory and the theory of karma. In order to convince that, it's a concept of Atma come. This body and mind, or body, this brain and mind, is one lifetime. So, beside this body and mind, Atma, that no beginning, I think no end. Even so, the Sankhya philosophy, all phenomena, 25 elements. The main Chizo. Then Atma. So when Atma, then all the 23 element dissolved into Jizo. Then that and Atma alone so remain. I discuss one scholar, one Hindu scholar I discuss, is quite clear. So Atma always there. So that helpful, you see, the explanation of rebirth, previous life, this life, from this life, next life. So then, once you see, any individual is who have that kind of concept and believe that, then death is something like change our clothes, person continuously, or self continuously. So then, one sort of story, one great practitioner in Tibet, he become very old, now almost dying. And then some people, you see, express, now you should remain long. Then he answered, no, I have no fear. You see, one day, I mean, a day with this old body, fertile body. Next, you see, after a few weeks, new body, young body. So I prefer, I feel happy, die, like that. So then, generally speaking, yes, generally, all I think major religious tradition who believe rebirth, reincarnation, rebirth. So this very life should be should carry more meaningful life. That the preparation for good next life. So you have sort of the full conviction, I done some good things, mainly serving other people. Never I harmed other people, including, as you mentioned, the insect. So sometimes I jokingly, half joke, half serious, except mosquito. When we have sort of nice sort of sound sleep, and mosquito come like that, and sometimes you do that. You have to do that. Of course, that's because of the joke. Sometimes I also do that. When you see, my mood is good, then, and also you see, quite clear, no, I almost guarantee no malaria carrying, then sometimes I give blood to mosquito, and sucking my blood, and the whole body become red, and then become fat, right? Body also because of the fat, right? Then few drops, few drops, then fly. So many occasions I ask some scientist, some brain specialist, so which size of brain, you see, have the ability to develop appreciation? So dogs, of course we human being, dogs, most of the animal, if you feed them well, and because of the pet, then they appreciate. Some birds also have that. Mosquito know that kind of sort of ability. When they sort of full, they are sort of a stomach, just a few drops, then fly. No sign of appreciation. one occasion in Oxford, my talk in the front line, some great scientists, some Oxford professors there. And I asked them this question. Nobody answered. So in any way, so you see, while you're alive, you see, don't harm others, serving others as much as possible. I usually say telling, the essence of Buddhism is, if possible, serve others, helping others. If not, restrain harm. Like that. So then, at the time of your death, you feel, oh, my whole life I carry a more peaceful, non-violent way. I never recall harming others. Then you feel confidence. Then death comes, not much fear. And then on top of that, you see, there is certain practice. According to the Tantrayana, some practice. And firstly, make distinction. Grosser level of consciousness. There's a sensorial consciousness is grosser level. Then dream time, another level. Or sensorial consciousness no longer function. Then deep sleep, or at that time dreaming, some level. Then deep sleep, even no dream. The scientists also now judging the change of brain. They can predict, now this person dreaming, now this person no dreaming, deep sleep. So there is a different level of consciousness. Usually people call unconscious. But in a subtle level, still there's consciousness. So for some time, unconscious. Then again, when you say recover conscious, there must be subtle level continuation. Otherwise, once unconscious happen, then never be because of recover like that. So there are different level of mind or consciousness. With mind, some energy, grosser level, more subtle level, innermost subtle level. So as I briefly mentioned, the most, because of the innermost subtle level, no beginning, no end. So knowing these things, then at the time of dying, 8 stages. First, the body element. First of all, body element. Kasa, dissolution, dissolve. Earth, solid element, then liquid element, then heat element, then kasota. Mar, anda, lung, sachu chume me lung. Oh, then it is a certain inner energy. Inner energy also, you see, there are many different levels. So then gradually all these dissolved, usually external thing, the solid eventually become such liquid. Liquid due to heat, dry. Then very small particle. Then eventually that also disappear in space. So the modern cosmology, they also you see saying that before Big Bang, you see there is tremendous sort of energy. There must be some source of that energy. Firstly dissolve, then again come. So similarly, inner world, also you see this similar sort of pattern process. But then inner world, differences is consciousness. Now, consciousness we call space, inner space. Now, inner space, there are 4 levels. Kalamba, Malamba, Nalamba, Lada.
So, in this devotion process, you go through what are known as the whitish appearance, reddish increase, and then blackish near attainment.
So now, actually, you see, now we witness at least the last now over 50 years, I think at least 30 cases as far as we know. Now, after death, clinically dead, doctor came, check, heart beating stop, so blood circulation stop, cease. So brain now dead. So consciousness which related with this brain no longer function. So clinically dead. Now, some cases, over now 30 cases, body remain fresh. Next 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some cases 4 weeks. So now scientists, you see, cannot explain that. So therefore, some American scientists now, since last few years, now start some project to investigation about that level of mind. So like that. So therefore, you see, these knowing 8 stages at the time of death, we have certain sort of also practice. For that practice, daily practice, sort of visualization, these things. So I myself also, I think each day, I think 6 times death, visualize, like that. So suppose preparation for my death, but I'm not very sure. Actual death come, whether I can practice this or not, I'm not very sure. So these, you see, very helpful. You fully sort of aware the death process. That awareness through training or some sort of strength gains, then after death, your mind still remain very clear. And with that, then you can choose where I should take my next life, here or there, or time, like that. So proper reincarnation, you see, come on that level. But many reincarnation, little bit rubbish. Including myself. Like that. Next question.
With ultimate devotion and obeisance to His Holiness, my question is, in today's materialistic world, how can we practice detachment from material, both tangible as well as non-tangible?
Now here, I think according to different philosophical views, different tradition, there's different method. As far as Buddhism is concerned, the important Buddhist concept of shunyata. Shunyata does not mean nothingness, but due to other factor, things exist. No independently exist. Nothing, like a quantum physics, very similar. So that sort of philosophical view. Now my own case, now over almost 60 years, I developed some interest about this philosophy. Then last 40 years, more serious thinking. That really affect my anger, attachment, really much effect. So therefore, in order to tackle these things, you have to know the whole system of these emotions, the fundamental sort of causes or basis of these emotions. Any leather nyumon namdole said tsumishik namdole kigors. Nyumon le di nyumon di tsumishik namdo kibres. Tsumishik namdo tinjing travel chores. One my friend, one American scientist, Aaron Beck, when I met him first time, his age 84. Then a few years ago, I also visited his own home because I have great respect. Then his age 97 or something like that. So he's a non-believer. Many decades his profession dealing with people who have much sort of restlessness due to anger. So then his sort of many years his experience, then he makes some kind of conclusion. When people develop anger, the object appears something very negative, but actually 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. This is exactly Nagarjuna stated. 2000 years ago, he mentioned that. And according to my own little experience, it became very clear. So therefore, meditate or thinking or analyze about emptiness, shunyata. In order to in order to bring conviction about shunyata is the patita samuppada. Things exist due to other factor. So nothing independently exists. So the wrong view, all phenomena and also self, you see, entirely based on appearances. Appearance is something objectively exists. So now here, the concept of truth. What's that? Like that. So, not easy tackle anger. Take a long time, but there is possibility to eventually to eliminate anger. Firstly, reduce intensity of anger and attachment. And also the Buddha's first teaching, Tunghe Tong Tamisa, Mita Tunghe Tong Tamisa, Tiki Pingtua. You see, this also is the example of impermanence. One place, another place, impermanence. Thank you very much.